Well, that was a bit of a quick departure. Let me start and explain what happened. As is often the case in precarious situations, the camera was not ready and there was no time to shoot the unfolding drama. The weather forecast for today was as bad as it is right now, so rain the whole day, and the wind starting in the southwest and then veering to south later in the afternoon, and also picking up to 20 knots in gusts. And we knew that the little harbour that we were in and also the pontoon would be quite exposed to a southerly wind. And when the wind started to build up this morning, just slightly, there was a very gentle swell coming into the bay, and we just saw, even with this small little swell, the boat came up quite high on the pontoon, and the clear risk was, and what would happen with slightly higher waves and the southerly wind, that the boat would actually until the sea state would develop even more. And that's why we're going now. We're on the way to Harstad. That's about 20 nautical miles away, 23 nautical miles away, so we should be there in 4 hours. And the wind is not too bad now. It's 10 knots. It's all fine. The maneuver to leave was a bit frantic because right in the moment when we wanted to go, the wind piped up and pressed us to the pontoon quite a bit stronger. We put a spring in and I motored forward into this spring and then had to go off. The first attempt didn't work, so in the moment when I wanted to go backwards, there was another gust that basically put my back, the aft of the boat, to the pontoon again, and I risked to be drifting into shallow water, so we had to go back on the pontoon and restart the maneuver, and the second attempt was then actually fine. So we're on the way. However, we weren't aware of this. But no bad damage was caused, and this was a quick fix at a later point. As we approach Kvernsundet, we see some obvious weather sign in the distance. In blissful ignorance, we had shaped our course through Kvernsundet, being the shortest route in today's uninviting weather. We were greeted by rain, strong winds and fierce gusts of force 8 piping out of the Sund. Now the wind is down to almost nothing, 5-6 knots. There's still a bit of a strange sea state, and I think what happened is that just over there with these mountains and the valleys that were perfectly exposed for the wind to funnel through and to come in at full speed, we measured up to 36 knots hitting us, and that was quite a thing.
But luckily no waves, huh?
But no waves, because we're in the sun here, and there's no fetch, there's no waves that can actually build in this wind, so that was okay. The sea state was fine, but the wind was something. Apparently, the Norske Los, the pilot book published by the Norwegian Hydrographic Service, explicitly warns of high winds and ferocious gusts in Kvernsundet in strong southerly winds. So for now the rain has almost stopped, but looking at windy, that's 12 o'clock.
Where are we now?
We are here, roughly here, where there's no wind, and then we have to go down here, so there might be a little bit more wind waiting for us. There would be an option to go across to Engenes, which is about here. That might be easier with the wind, but for the next couple of days the weather doesn't really look nice, so this is quite a small harbour. Harstad is a proper town, and I think it's better to sit out a period of not so nice weather in a bigger town than in a small place. So we try to go into Harstad today. If the wind pipes up again and it's not feasible, we can always deviate over there to Engenes.
It's not how we expected to spend the Saturday, actually.
No, not really, no.
I thought I could do some editing, maybe some baking, and now we are fighting against the wind. The waves build up.
After a rough passage through Kvernsundet, the rest of today's trip was uneventful, and we entered a safe harbour of Harstad in mid-afternoon. As we enter the main harbour in the city centre, where also the Hurtigruten and fast ferries stop, we find the basin quite open and exposed, and all the spaces at the floating visitor pontoon that are big enough for Polaris are already taken. We read that there might be visitor berths in the small boat harbour at the very end of the long and shallow bay, but already on the chart this looked unlikely. Nevertheless, we tried our luck, only to find the depth below our keel running out, forcing us to go back to the main harbour in the city centre. It is not always easy to find a suitable place on a wooden pier, particularly when it is damaged like this in many places. To me, this suggests that perhaps there might be rough conditions at times in here. In tidal waters, the added difficulty is that the mooring lines must be adjusted or kept long enough to allow for the rise and fall of the tide. Nevertheless, we find a suitable spot close to the visitor pontoon and tie the lines to the tiny bollards. The sun is out and we're off on our trusted Bromptons to explore Harstad and its exciting history. Our tour brings us to the scenic trail along the seashore, which was built and is being kept in shape by a group of local volunteers. The iconic Trondenes Church is the world's most northern medieval building. This white stone church was built around the year 1435 and its architect remains unknown. The church is famous for its rich Gothic interior decorations. Today's church is the third church that was built on this site. The first was a wooden stave church, which is the traditional church type in Norway, and the second one was fortified with stone walls and ramparts, which can still be seen around the church today. The Soviet War Memorial stands as a silent witness and in remembrance for the up to 1,200 prisoners, of which about 800 died, whilst being forced by the Nazis to build the Trondenes Fort in 1943. One of the top attractions in Harstad is the Adolf gun in Trondenes Fort, the sole survivor of once four 40.6 cm Schnellladekanone C34, which still are the world's largest land-based guns. Still today, Trondenes Fort is a military restricted area, as it serves as the headquarters of the Norwegian Coastal Ranger Command. We knew that tours to see the Adolf gun were not offered on Sundays, but we hoped we might be able to get a glimpse anyway. A bit sheepish we looked when we found ourselves in front of close barriers of an active military base being checked out and sent away by the friendly but determined guards on duty. Today is a relatively short trip from Harstad, where we spent the last 2-3 days, over to Engenes it's called. Engenes is a small, I think, fishing harbour in here. It's 15 nautical miles, about 2 hours. A 2 hours drive. There's not a lot of wind today. 5 knots apparent, 11 true. Maybe we can do something, but we'll see. And otherwise, it's a nice short drive. Good morning. We just left the small harbour of Engenes, which is under construction. We were grateful that we could berth our boat yesterday on the big industrial pontoon. The visitors pontoon is just being re-established now. They built a whole new harbour here for the fish farm, and I did a little visit to the visitor centre of the fishing industry here, which is very interesting and eye-opening. So today we are sailing, or motoring rather, to Finnsnes. That's going to be our winter destination. We're going to check it out and stay there for to establish our infrastructure there. It's 28 nautical miles to Finnsnes. We should be there around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. The wind has freshened up and is blowing right in our direction up Trondenes Fort. So we set the Genoa. However, this proves to be not enough, and so we roll in the Genoa, pull up the mainsail and roll out the Genoa again. As the wind is directly from behind, we try goose winging. The mainsail is set to starboard, the Genoa to port. Ideally, we would have a whisker pole for trimming the Genoa better. Our cruising chute, under different circumstances the weapon of choice in these conditions, remains in the locker. As we experienced in the past, the wind can change very quickly in speed and direction in the fjords, which could make the handling of this 150 square meter sail a bit tricky. Well, at least we could do some sailing, a couple of hours, not a lot of wind, maximum 15 knots from behind, which is just about enough to propel Polaris, but now it has fallen down below 10 knots, which gives us a speed of barely 4 knots through the water, which I don't like. It's 1.3 miles to go into Finnsnes, which will be our winter berth, so we're excited to see where we're going to spend the 6 months through the winter. We're going to stay here for a couple of days, maybe a week, just to get a few things sorted before we continue up north towards Tromsø.
Are you nervous a bit?
No.
Are you sure about our choice?
I think I am. It's quite, I mean, if you look around here, it's quite inland. Okay, it's quite an open body of water here, but it's well protected from outside. There's mountains and hills all around that will protect us a bit from the worst winds, I think and I hope, and also there is not too much fetch where any big swell could develop. And I think the harbour is very well protected. It has a huge breakwater, so again, I think we should be okay in here. I'm not nervous. I'm looking forward, and I'm excited. And today, as you are editing this video under a thick layer of snow covering Polaris, and with the hindsight of 3 months in Olderhamna Båthavn, we could not have made a better choice. The harbour is very well protected from waves from any direction, and the people here could not be more helpful and friendly. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like or comment. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in our next episode where we continue our journey north and discover some exciting new places.
Are you happy with the space?
Yes, very much so. It's great. I love it.